Hey guys, today we're talking about how schools get their young vote out with Clayton County Social Studies Coordinator, Miss Regina Wallace. Hello guys, this afternoon we'll be talking to Miss Regina Wallace, and she is the Social Studies Coordinator for Clayton County Public Schools. We'll be talking about how do we engage voters that are 18 or turning 18 before the next election? How do we engage them to register to vote and to stay in a voting state of mind? Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Wallace, for joining us. Could
Of
you please
course.
tell us about what you do for Clayton County Public Schools?
Of course. I'm Miss Regina Wallace, and I'm the K-12 Social Studies Coordinator for the district in the Department of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. So I work with K-12 social studies teachers, provide professional development. We analyze data around our state assessments and provide benchmarks and things of that nature to prepare students. We provide a curriculum for our teachers to use with our students from kindergarten to 12th grade. So literally everything dealing with the content of social studies falls into my realm of work.
Awesome, awesome. Now, in more dealing with our 18-year-old voters, not on the curriculum side, but on the civic side, how do we engage our 18-year-old, our seniors, or our upcoming 18-year-olds or upcoming seniors to register to vote, one, and then after you register to vote, to act on that, to actually vote? How do you guys do that?
That's a great question. Research and recent data leading up to the election saw that generation of students 18 to 29 being the group that was really not going to come out and vote. You know, that was the group that they really did not count on making a difference, if you will, in the election, just because of trend data. And we see where over the years that age group continuously kind of declined some in voter participation. And so in Clayton County, we've always had a robust registration initiative to really get our students registered to vote before graduating from all of our high schools. But I think that with that, we were missing two things that were critical that we added in last year during the gubernatorial race to really make a difference. So it's not just about registration, but we added in voter education and voter participation.
Okay.
And so what that means is just saying, okay, now we're going to register you, but let me give you the why behind why we want you to register and really make it more concrete for students. And so we created a curriculum around voting that had them analyze voting from different perspectives and through different lenses to show them how their vote really has an impact on their lives. I think a lot of times when you're in that age group and a lot of decisions are being made for you, you really can't see, you know, how my vote is going to have an impact on what's taking place in the world around me. But this year, the data has said that the highest two reasons that brought out voters in that age demographic was number one, COVID, and number two, racial tensions. And so I believe that is because it's something that they have a personal connection with now. So before, you know, we would tell them you need to vote because, you know, your college tuition and graduating without debt and job and the economy, everything is going to, you know, be decided and you need to have a voice in that decision, but it still was abstract. But I think those two issues, COVID and racial tension, really made it more concrete for students. One, they're dealing with COVID every day because they're not allowed to go back to school yet. They're still on the computer working virtually. So that's something that they personally connected with. That was a topic that they personally have been impacted by. And they saw a clear next step being voting, being a way to enact change on that situation. And then secondly, they're being involved in seeing this racial tension and this great racial divide that we're seeing in the country. They're seeing that firsthand 28% of young voters have participated in the protest this year. And so I think that's something else that basically was impacting them personally. And again, they saw a clear next step to dealing with the issue of racial violence. So I think adding in that education piece gave them a why, and it allowed them to see, okay, this is how change works in this particular country. And then we also released a curriculum under the compelling question of does voter suppression exist in Georgia? We had students look at the previous gubernatorial races, how voting in Georgia changed for this presidential election, and just look at, well, if the vote is being suppressed in Georgia, and then go a step further, well, why? Why would people work so hard to suppress a civic responsibility? There must be power in the vote, and really getting students to see, well, wow, there is some power in the vote. There's a reason why people are, would try to suppress this particular right, because it is so powerful. So that was, around that education piece. And then the other missing link was participation. So we've gotten you registered, we have you educated on the candidates, the issues, things of that nature. But, some of our students deal with issues of transportation, or they may be working, or just not really making a plan to vote. And so that is where we step in. Again, this year we encouraged our eligible students to be October voters, voting early, getting them their plan to vote. This year for the runoff Senate election, we provided them with a plan to vote template where they're going to list out, okay, on this day, I have these things to do, but by this time window, I'll be ready to vote. So just really being proactive to participate. We provided transportation for our students to go to the polls. And this is all a targeted effort where we, with the Department of Technology, got a roster of those kids who would be eligible for the presidential election. And then now for the runoff, we send it to the schools, and that becomes a priority to identify these kids, get them registered, start their education, and let them know how we're going to support them with participation.
Awesome. How's that going? How's that plan going? We don't have long. I think we have 2 weeks.
Right.
December 5th. How's that going?
So we released the plan called Finish the Race Strong. Finish the Race Clayton Strong. And we released that to all of our high schools, our principals, assistant principals, and our sponsoring social studies teachers, who our social studies teachers are phenomenal, and they really take this to heart. And so it's going very well. Like I said, this is a process that we do every year, but it's great to have leadership like our central office staff, our superintendent, our board, who are supporting the initiative. So it's really a full district approach to really wrapping our hands around our eligible students to get them out to vote. And so I think by everyone having like an all hands on deck approach, the students can't go to any class without hearing, did you register to vote? What is you gonna look like on election day? What is your schedule looking like? It's really been a holistic approach to showing students why this civic responsibility is so important. So it's going very well. We were able to register 742 new voters for the presidential election. And we see that, Clayton County was on the news and leading in that age group of 18 to 29.
And we flipped it blue.
Exactly. And we made history, no matter, and that's one thing that our social studies teachers do, we don't care who you vote for, it's just history was made, and that's what we care about in social studies, is showing students how you can be a history maker. And they overwhelmingly came out, 20%, I was reading 20% of the vote in Georgia came from that age group. And they voted for Joe Biden by a 19-point margin. So if they would have just voted like 3% less, then the state would not have turned blue. And so they were really integral in making that history change for Georgia. And so I think a lot of times teachers shy away, especially this presidential election. I heard a lot of teachers and reports that I was reading just saying, this has just been 1 year. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about these issues. It's difficult. It's hard. We're scared that we'll get in trouble. But that's where great leadership comes in. And our superintendent is like, no, our kids are looking at it on the news. Let's support our teachers with having those conversations. And so the Department of Social Studies created a discussing controversial issues curriculum that our teachers use to basically bring the headlines into the classroom, because we can no longer, shy away from the issues that our students want to talk about. I was just reading that in 1999, the New Millennial Report that was done by the National Association of the Secretary of State said that 55% of our youth don't feel like schools educate them enough or provide enough information around voting. And so we have to do our part. We can't just say, go vote. We have to bring those controversial issues into the classroom. But then you couple that with the fact that the federal government cut funding for civic education from 35 million to zero. And so that plays a part with it too. Again, in 2013, only 8 states in the whole United States have social studies as an integral part of their curriculum. And it's not tested, and it's not a part of their state assessment that gives their school performance report. So there's not a lot of emphasis on social studies, which means there's not a lot of emphasis on civic engagement, civic responsibility, things of that nature. And so we can't be surprised when they get to be 18 and we see a decline or trending data that's trending down for participation in elections. So I think we have to plant the seed early. We do a mock election with our kindergarten through high school students for every presidential election, just to plant the seed and just let them see how they can take place in our democracy, what role they can play in our democracy.
That is awesome. And again, we're not telling anyone who to vote for. We just want you to vote.
Just vote.
Just vote.
Just vote. That's been our message. And we coupled what we did for our eligible students, because we service a community, and we know that the best way to get information to parents is through those kids. And so we got our elementary babies and our middle school students to participate in a TikTok competition called Be My Voice. Basically, you have to speak for me. I can't vote, but you can. And we partner with Usher's New Look Foundation to basically have them record voting public service announcements that went out to our stakeholders and our community members and our parents to say, hey, voting is important. If you can stand in line for Black Friday, you can stand in these lines to go vote. And
it's not important until you put it on TikTok.
Exactly. when we said TikTok, we got so many entries from students, but it showed me, just looking at those entries, it showed me that students really care about what's going on around them, and they want us to care too. They want us to do something about it. And I'll never forget when we took the students, pre-COVID, we transported over 250 students to go vote for in the gubernatorial election. And one of the young ladies coming out said, one of the students, she said, I've been waiting to do this since I was in kindergarten when we did it for my collection. And that just brought everything full circle. Like, that is why we do what we do. She said, my mother doesn't believe in voting. My father doesn't believe in voting, but I told them I'm voting today.
I know, and that's right.
That one young lady, can spark other people to go and vote. I was reading where over 70% of our young voters talk to other young voters about the importance of voting. So we can't do it all the time. Sometimes our message sounds too old, but when we have 70% of 18 to 29-year-olds leading conversations around critical issues related to voting, that's where we see Georgia turn blue. That's where we see history beginning to happen. And that is where the focus is now on the senator runoff, because that group has such an impact. Now people are starting to say, oh, they do vote. Oh, so
Ew.
the road to the White House goes through those 18 to 29-year-olds.
I'm going to use that as my plug to end. The road to the White House, and we'll say to the Capitol,
To the
goes
Capitol,
through
yes.
18 to 29-year-olds, and we want to get them
Yes.
out January 5th, early voting
Yes.
December 14th, the
Yes.
last day to register to vote December 7th.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much, Ms. Wallace.
Thank
You've given us so
you.
much
Thank
information,
you. Yes.
and I'll be in touch.
Yes, I look forward to coming back after the 5th to see how history is made in Georgia again, to see what happens. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.